Good evening and welcome to Interview with the Veterans. I'm Don Betke. Tonight, I'm honored to have as a guest. He was a veteran of World War II and served on the aircraft carrier, the Essex, which he'd like to talk about tonight. And my guest is Bill Scarnickia.
Yes.
Bill, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure and honor to have you on.
My pleasure to be here.
You served on the Essex from the day it was brought into service, and that's what you'd like to talk about tonight. So
That is true.
we can skip we figured that you enlisted and went to Great Lakes, so why don't we, if you want to talk about the Essex, go right ahead.
Okay, that would be it. I took some notes on it. This is a heck of a lot to try to put
That's
together.
fine.
But from Great Lakes, after serving in boot camp, I was assigned to the USS Essex. And that was on December 31st, 1942, that I was assigned to the ship and that I was aboard the ship at that time. And this was a brand new ship, very brand new. And speaking of the Essex, the Essex was the first of its class, first CV of its class. You know what a CV is?
Oh, these were the
A
fast.
CV is a large carrier. Large carriers were CVs. A CVL was a smaller carrier, and they were converted cruisers. Then they had CVEs, which were converted tankers. CVEs were like ferrying planes out to us and stuff like that. They weren't in action, but they like ferried planes to us when we needed them. But all in all, speaking of the Essex, she was the first of her class to be commissioned, a first CV of her class.
And at the time, these were the largest aircraft carriers in the world.
At that time, right. Correct. And she was the first CV of her class, the largest. She was the first CV to transit the Panama Canal. And going through the Panama Canal up through the locks, it was the 5-inch mount at the after end of the ship on the port side. They had to take that mount and take it off because it wouldn't fit through the locks. They had to remove that 5-inch gun. But all in all, that took place. And after Panama, let's see, we were the first CV, Trans-Panama Canal, the first CV of her class to enter Pearl Harbor. And we were the first CV of her class to cross the equator. And we were the first CV of her class to anchor in Majuro, Saipan, Castle Passage, Ulithi, and Lady Gulf. And we were the first CV of her class to launch and land planes with destroyers along both port and starboard quarters and a tanker along the starboard side. The ships never stop. They're all underway all the time when they're refueling or whatever they're doing. And ships pull alongside, but they're moving all the time. They never stop. And we were the first CV of our class to carry U.S. Marine Squadron into action in combat. And we were a unit of the first task group to strike with carrier-based planes. Tokyo, Okinawa, Iwo Jima, Formosa, Swatow, Rabaul, the Pescadores, Hong Kong, Hainan, Saigon, Karen Bay, Kyushu, Luzon, Guam, Saipan, Truk, and Hokkaido. We struck all those places, the only carrier to do that, the first anyway. And, but all in all, our first air-sea battle was at Rabaul. And at Rabaul, we were hitting Jap shipping. Well, to begin with, we were on our way for the invasion of the Gilberts, the Gilbert Islands. We had already invaded the Marshalls, and we were ready to invade the Gilbert Islands. And the Jap shipping was pulling into Rabaul, and we got put under a 6-hour notice to hit that shipping. There was cruisers, destroyers, and what have you. And they were trying to fortify their troops on Bougainville. It was during the invasion of Bougainville. But anyway, our air group, we had Air Group 9 aboard our ship. Great, wonderful air group. They hit that Jap shipping. Well, after the first strike, they decided to launch another one to really put it, the whole shot out of commission. And when we had our fighters in the air, stand by to repel air attack, there was swarms of Japanese planes all over us. And our fighters were in the air. It's a good thing, because if they weren't, it'd have been curtains for us. But they were in the air. They knocked down, I think it was 32 or 33 of them. And anyway, I don't know what the other air group, the other carrier that was with us was the Bunker Hill. She was an Essex-class carrier, and she seemed to be a sister ship to the Essex. But all in all, we come out great on the Battle of Rabaul.
Now, what was your job? What was your job on the carrier?
I was an aviation ordnanceman. I was with Division B1A, it was called, and we were aviation ordnance. We took care of all armament that went aboard the aircraft and took care of all their guns, made sure they fired, and all the aircraft. Now, my job was on the dive bombers.
Okay, I'm going to show a picture of the dive bomber right here.
Right. Yep, that was it, a SB-2C Helldiver. But to begin with, we didn't have them. We had SBDs. And they were the type bombers that we had to synchronize the guns on them to fire between the blades of the prop. That's the way they fired. We had to set the zero shot and what have you on the trigger motors of the gun, and had that fire like we have somebody pull the prop around. And when that prop clicks, we see where the gun is pointing. And it's got to be pointing toward 3 inches toward the trailing edge of the prop to miss it. And that's the way we set the timing and everything. It was quite a job.
Now, were you assigned to one specific plane, or did you service a group of planes?
We was assigned different plane, number plane. It seemed like I always got plane number 11, even when the new ones come aboard. But anyway, we were assigned. But that was the SBDs. But then it was shortly after that we got the SB-2C Helldivers. They had the 20 millimeter cannon, one in each wing. And I was assigned to one of those planes, cleaning the guns, make sure that everything, well, when a plane would land, like the dive bomber, us ordnance men, we had to get under, and there would be one round in the chamber and one in the barrel of the gun, ready to be fired. One in the ready to be fed in. And they had spring tension feeders on these guns, on the wing, on top of the wing, that spring tension. And we made up our own ways to do this, because now, as it stood, when the pilot leaves that plane, there's a round in the chamber and a round ready to be fired. One ready to be fed and one ready to be fired. So we have to we have a belt holding pawl on the feeders, on the wing. We put that in to stop them from feeding down. That holds them back. And then we get under, clear 2 rounds out, and get everything clear, send the bolts home. We fire the bolts home, and the guns are on safe. They got to be on safe while they're on deck.
Right.
And that's how we used to work that deal. Then pull the belt holding pawl out, and the rounds feed down, but they're not going, being fed, not until they pull that trigger. So that was our job. We had to keep those guns clean and make sure they were in good firing condition and stuff like that. We took care of our own plane. That was our job. So, but anyway, during that battle at Rabaul, we hit the Jap shipping, and we thought we should launch another strike. So we got fighters in the air first, and then while they're in the air, and we had planes on deck loaded with bombs ready to take off and grab. If they dropped a bomb and we got hit, all those bombs would go off and would be nothing left to us. But anyway, we got fighters in the air, and the minute we got the fighters in the air, we were ready to launch one of the planes, one of the SB-2Cs. No, we had SB-2Cs on at that time. But anyway, they said, stand by to repel air attack. And oh boy, I mean, it was swarms of them. At that day, ship's guns shot down 9. 9 from the ship's guns. And the air group, the fighters in the air, I think they shot down 42 or 43 of them. And the Japs lost a lot of planes during that battle, during the Battle of Rabaul. And it was after that we went through the invasion of the Gilbert Islands. And during that invasion, I don't know if it was the wrong time to go in or what. It seemed like they went in at low tide. It'd have been better to go in at high tide to get them up closer, you know. But they were way back on the beaches, and when they started the invasion, Japs, well, we bombed hell out of that island, the Gilberts. You could see, we dropped 2,000-pound bombs on it. You could see nothing but big crater holes. But it seems like they come out of the ground, these Japs. They come out of the ground, because the minute they started the landing, Japs come out of nowhere. And we lost, there was 1,000 of them killed right away during the invasion. You know, you hear the stories about Iraq, well, we hate to see anybody get killed, you know, that, but when 1 or 2, they all go crazy, you know, but what do they do when you see 1,000 of them going? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a different type war anyway. But all in all, we finally secured the Gilbert Islands. And after that, we went back. Honolulu was our home port, but we invaded the Marshalls. And well, anyway, we went back to Honolulu. And it was a write-up. You perhaps could see it in that book.
Yeah, I'll pull it out.
It was in the Honolulu paper in regards to the Essex claiming being the fighting ship in the Navy and stuff like that. It's read in that Honolulu paper. And anyway, we thought we were anyway. That was our pride. We thought we're the greatest. And, but all in all, it was like, what was his name? Wayne, that was here before. He spoke of the Wake Island, Well, I told him about that. Like, it was always the Marcus Island. That was 1,000 miles from Japan up north. Used to be a strike that our air group would hit for practice. And then the next one would be Wake. They used Wake Island as a practice target. There was nothing on it. Hardly any Japs or anything. It might have been the first time we hit it. But after that, there was nothing there. No Japs on it at all. But anyway, our next battle, our next invasion was the Marianas. Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. They didn't invade Rota, but that was in the Mariana group of islands. But we went through that, and right after that, they had the turkey shoot. You perhaps heard about the turkey shoot.
Right. For those people that don't know, the turkey shoot was basically a killing field for the Navy and Marine pilots. The Japanese you basically just shot them out of the sky in that battle.
Well, through those battles, well, anyway, I'll get to that, but anyway, we had the turkey shoot. They were knocking Jap planes just like nothing, you know what I mean? Our pilots had it all over them. And then we got to make a strike at Truck Island. Truck Island was supposed to be like Pearl Harbor was to us. Truck was a given island for Japan, where they had a lot of planes and ships and whatnot. That was a stopping place for the Japanese fleet. And they crucified that place, Truck Island. And then we got in the first battle of the Philippine Sea, the second battle of the Philippine Sea, and then we got into, well, the invasion of the Philippines, but we got into the Sea of the South China Sea, where we had a big battle there, and that was you take. What was his name? Commander David McCampbell. During that battle, the second battle of the Philippine Sea, he shot down 7 in one dogfight, 7 Japanese planes in one dogfight up there.
Now he ended up the most with the most kills in
yeah, he had 43 to his credit, and he got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was well decorated for that. But if you notice in the book, you know, like we crossed the equator twice, and you'll notice a picture in there of a movie star, Wayne Morris. You ever hear of him? He was an old actor. Well, not at that time. He was a young actor at that time. But when we cross the equator, it shows us, you know, initiating him, let's put it that way. If you can get to the equator.
I think I'm probably past it. In the battles that you had, did the ship near the end of the war, like most ships in the Pacific did the Essex come under attack from kamikazes?
Absolutely, I was getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah, but we like that second battle of the Philippine Sea, that was quite a battle, and the Princeton was sunk. She got hit and she was sunk. And the destroyers delivered survivors from the Princeton onto the Essex. And then they become a crew, you know. And I think one of them was an ordnanceman out of the group they picked up. And we were glad to have him. And But boy, we didn't like losing to Princeton. But she got hit and she started blowing up. And that was the end of that. But all in all, during that battle, they found out that there was a group of Jap carriers, plane carriers, coming from the north. And during that time, now we hit this group of battleships and cruisers and whatnot, and they were they were in the inland sea heading toward Leyte Gulf, the other side of the Gulf. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we went through the Battle of Leyte Gulf, but the Battle of Leyte Gulf, that's when that began. When we were in the inland sea, we chased they hit this group. They were 200 miles away. When our plane, they didn't have hardly enough gas to get back to the carrier. And they hit this group of battleships at cruisers that were heading toward Leyte. And then you heard of the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, we went and hit this carrier task force up north while the Battle of Leyte Gulf went on. And that went on by those ships that were 200 miles away that we hit. But they got in there, and there was a lot of, they were carrier escorts, CVLs, CVEs, transporting planes. Well, some way or another, they were launching these planes, and they weren't loaded, but they were making dummy runs on the Jap fleet. And anyway, the Japs turned tail and went toward Truck Island. That's where they went after that. And, but anyway, after securing the Philippines, of course, our next step was Okinawa. And Okinawa was the worst one of them all. That was the toughest. And,
No, you're fine.
Okay, that was the toughest battle of all. I mean, it's right in the Japanese backyard. It's in between Okinawa. Now, we were in between Okinawa and Japan, hitting all aircraft coming from Japan, to assist Okinawa. Our fighters from all the carriers, hitting Jap planes. But it was, I think it was Task Force 51. The invasion force, they got hit bad by Jap planes, but they survived it. And but during the battle, I remember this. See, the carriers, we used to get first-hand information what was going on the battlefield from our troops, from the invasion. We used to get and we got the word that General Buckner, he was from the European theater, he and Ernie Pyle, the news reporter, right, they were transferred to Okinawa. And they both got killed. We got the word on it. It was a sad situation there. But I'll tell you, at Okinawa, they were coming out with those suicide planes. And it seemed like they were trying to spell Essex. I don't know, because we were 338 minutes free from enemy air attacks. And that was we were there for 79 continuous days without dropping anchor or anything, just there fighting. And during that time, well, anyway, speaking of these suicide planes, you'd be shooting at them, and I can recall shooting. See, I was ordnance, and we were on the forward port side of the ship. That was our 20 millimeters. we had one that hit us, and we couldn't train on him because he was coming. We heard the word, stand by for high altitude bombing. And you couldn't see the damn plane. But then all of a sudden this guy comes diving, and we couldn't turn, it was right over the island structure of the ship. And you couldn't turn your gun, we were on the port, you couldn't turn your gun around, you couldn't hit him, train on him. He come in at such an angle, nobody could, and he did hit the ship on the port side in between our outer deck elevator and our gun mounts. Right in between there, that plane cracked up. And we had one of the greatest, we called them Repair 8, flight deck repair crew. They had that deck.
Picture of it actually right there being.
There you go. That's exactly what happened. They had that, the flight deck, repair crew. They called them Repair 8. And they had that deck patched up and what the heck was it? The fire out and everything. All fire out. They had the deck all in 15 minutes.
Right.
They had that. That's how fast they worked. And we were still launching planes and still effective part of the task group to fight. And we never went back to the States or anything, but we come out great. And but shooting at those kamikazes, those suicide planes, I can recall shooting at one that was coming in, and we hit them. And you seen the biggest explosion, knock you right back on your fanny. I'll tell you, the concussion. And there was many of those. I've seen them up above, but this one day, they tried to spell Essex, like I say. And we were doing great as far as I got. And well, anyway, after it was all over that day, it was that evening we got a communication from communique from the South Dakota. The South Dakota was a battleship that shot down I don't know how many planes in one salvo from one of their guns. They got, I don't know, I heard about that, but they sent a communique to the Essex stating, we admired today's performance by Essex gunners. We're proud to be alongside of such a good shooting ship.
Really?
And we were happy to hear that.
That's a testament to the ship and to the men that served on it. We're down to the last couple minutes on the show, so if you'd like to wrap up about your ship, the Essex, before we leave now.
That's the story of the Essex. She went all through it, never missed an invasion since her first battle at Rabaul. She went through every invasion, right on up to the end of the war.
And probably one of the most famous carriers.
This great friend of ours, Red Esnes, he used to get all the information from the island structure, come down, tell us what's going on. He come down this one day, he says, the war is over. They dropped the bomb, the war is over. That was the happiest day of my life.
I can only imagine how everybody felt that day when when he realized that it was over and that you weren't going to be, you weren't going to be getting shot at anymore, and they weren't going to be picking out the Essex as a target. So, once again, Bill Scarnickia, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your tales of the Essex and what you went through with your crew.
My pleasure.
And it was our pleasure to have you on.
I'm sure my generations of nieces and nephews will enjoy watching this.
I'm sure they will, as long as the rest of the people that watch the show. And if you're like Bill and you'd like to come on, you can contact Jerry Bogus here at ECMC at 847-869-2510 and tell your story just like Bill did tonight. So on behalf of Bill Scarnickia and the rest of the crew here at Interview with the Veterans at ECMC, I'm Don Betke. Thanks for watching and good evening.
trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowin' reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cap went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. A toot, a toot, a tooty-lat, a tooty blows it eight to the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar is playing with him. He makes a company jump when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. He was a boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B.